In this video I'm going to show you how to do split screen techniques, how to put two videos on screen at the same time, four or any number of videos on screen at the same time. And as well as that, I'm going to show you some really good techniques for doing this quickly and easily every time, using grids to set the dimensions of the split screens and using sequences so that you can quickly alter the content that you want to use at any time. So let's get started. So let's look at the simplest way to get two videos to play on the screen at the same time. In order to do that, we need to drag two different clips onto the timeline and put them into separate tracks. So I've moved one clip onto track 1 and I'll take another clip and move it onto track 2. So you can now see that there are two tracks here, but the top one obscures the lower track. And that top track always takes precedence, as you can see here. So what we need to do in order to see the lower track is we need to reduce the scale of the top track. So I'll just simply do that by dragging the scale down a bit to something like that. I'm just going to select the position and then I can move the top video to whatever position on the screen we want. And now when we press play, then both videos run at the same time. But we may wish to do something a little bit more sophisticated than that. So let's try to put 4 videos onto the screen at one time, but have them all occupy equal space. So to do that, I'll just go back to the beginning of my timeline and I'm going to take another 2 clips and add them on as well. So there's our third clip on the timeline, and here is our 4th clip on the timeline. So we now have 4 clips all on the timeline together, and in order to make them occupy 4 different quadrants, I'm going to reduce the size of them all to 50%. So that one's at 50 and this one is at 50 and the next one is at 50, and I'll set the final one to 50. So now what we can do is I can select these clips one by one, select the position and drag them to where we want them to go, like the top left hand quadrant. Can then take the next one and select position and drag it to where we want it to go. It's here. I'll take the next one, select position, drag it down to the bottom corner, and finally I'll take this one and just position it correctly on the screen. So we've done it a little bit approximately, but you'll see now that all 4 play at the same time on the screen. We just need to be careful about the sound files and which sound we want to play during the video, and it may be necessary to mute some of the tracks in order that they're not all playing over the top of each other. So that is the first way to put 4 videos onto the screen at the same time. But I now want to show you some ways in which you can control that more precisely and get it all to work just the way that you want. To make this a little bit easier, we can make use of guides in order to get the position and sizing of our videos just exactly the way that we want it to be. So in order to get some guides on the screen, we need to first of all create a transparent video. It will automatically come up with the size of our sequence, and we click OK on that and then drag that onto our timeline. Now in this case we want a few more tracks that are here, so let's add 3 more tracks to this and move that transparent video up onto track 5 so that we've got room for 4 videos in below it. I'll just make it a little bit longer here. So on the transparent video, we want to add an effect that is called grid. So I'll just go to effects. I've already got grid typed in, so we just take the grid effect and drag it onto the transparent video, and you'll see that a grid immediately appears on the screen, and that this is the default state of the grid when you first put it on. You can change that by changing these values here under corner. There are different ways to do this, but you don't need to really change anything else other than this. So if I take this horizontal value and I reduce it, you'll see that you get more squares on the grid, or more rectangles on the grid. So we could, for example, increase that until these lines just touch the edges, and we have now got the screen basically divided in two on the vertical basis, and we can then take the vertical spacing and do the same with it. So increase the spacing until we have it divided into two portions, and now we have our screen divided into four. You can change the width of the border here as you wish, so we'll just leave it down fairly low. In fact, I could change it to 2 to make it really not very obvious. One thing that you should be aware of here is that you should set the program monitor so that items that are on it snap to the grid, and in order to do that, just click on the little wrench tool and make sure that snap in program monitor is checked, and that will make it extremely easy for you then to make things fit exactly into their squares. So let's go back to the project here and take the clips that we used previously and add them all in. It's the second one, take the third one, and take the fourth one. Now I will make them all scale to 50%. So I'm just going to copy that. I'll just right click and copy that, and then I'll select these 3 clips, and I'll right click and type paste attributes, and I'll put in motion, which is already checked, and say OK. So they're all set to 50%, and now we can take them one by one and we can move them into their position, and they will snap automatically to the grid. So I've selected the track, I click on position, and I simply move it to the right place, and it just snaps into position. I can take the next one, do exactly the same, click on position, move that one up here, it snaps just as we want it to. Take the third one, click on position, down into the bottom left quadrant, and finally the last one, click on position and move it into the bottom right quadrant. So that's how you can set them up to any grid that you want and have them all positioned precisely with very little effort indeed. And I want to take you on to a final refinement to the technique, which is to use nested sequences in order that you can apply this technique quick and easily to any of your videos. So we're starting again with a new sequence, and I want to show you how you can automate this slightly so that it's completely repeatable. I've left the transparent video on the timeline because I'm going to use it in the same way that we did before. This time I'm going to use nested sequences so that we can replace the content just as easily as we need to. Starting again, I'm going to drag the clips onto my timeline. The first one, the second one, I'll just move it up at the beginning, the third one, and the fourth one. So much is all the same, but I'm not going to resize them at this point. What I'm going to do, I'm going to nest each one of the clips so that we can replace the content of it easily. So just simply right click on the track and go to nest. I'm going to call this upper left. Press return. I'm going to take the second one, nest it, call it upper right. Take the next one, nest it, lower left, and the last one, nest it, call it lower right. Now for each one of these clips, I'm now going to move it into its quadrant the same way as we did before. So we take this and we make it scale of 50%. Just do each one of them individually, it's just as fast, I think. All done. So we just move them into position now. Take the upper left and move it into the upper left quadrant. Take the upper right and move it into the upper right quadrant. Take the lower left move it into the lower left quadrant, and finally take the lower right and move it into the lower right quadrant. Now, what was the advantage in doing that? The advantage in doing that is quite simply that if you want to replace the video or the contents that are in the upper left quadrant, you only have to double click on the nested sequence on that track. So if I double click that, it takes me to the video clip, and I could replace that with any other clip in the bin. So let's just show how we would do that. Supposing I want to replace it with this clip, I would simply select that clip in the project bin. I would right click on this and put replace with clip from bin, and so we have replaced it. I now go back to my screen demo, and you can see that that clip has been replaced and everything is in the correct position. So you could save this sequence as something that you can use as a template over and over, and all you've got to do is replace the clips that are within the sequences. And just to remind you, you get to them by just simply double clicking on the sequence in that track, and you can replace it as you need to. So I think you might find that is a really quick way of replicating this effect over and over with very little effort. Just create a 4-way split screen template using nested sequences, and it's there for the use quickly and simply. So if you find that useful, I'd really appreciate it if you would give a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. So if you've enjoyed this video and benefited from it, then please subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell and you'll be notified of the new videos as they're uploaded. I'm going to post a new video each week covering Premiere Pro, After Effects, Audition, Photoshop and Lightroom. So if you're interested in learning about these projects, then please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell and get a new video every week.